Something Gamers podcast. Me and Sharon, best friends since back in the 90s, 30 years plus. 40-something-year-old, we talk about pop culture and we talk about video games and, you know, just our love of games. So, Sharon, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. See, how you doing, my dude?
Man, I'm doing pretty good, man. I was just showing them this piece right here. One of my coworkers was talking about this Battle XP 350. So this thing right here, I was telling them, it's like the size of a Game Boy, and this bad boy has like thousands of games. We're talking about Neo Geo games, Sega Genesis, Sega Master System, Capcom Arcade, the Naomi board for Sega's 128-bit arcade games. We're talking about the Dreamcast. We're talking about the Sega Saturn. And do you know back in the 90s, we used to buy cartridges. We used to have consoles bigger than this. You know what I'm saying? Right. The size of a Game Boy. And the Game Boy, you used to have to put the cartridge in. But this holds thousands of games from thousands of different machines. It's like a wonderful time that we live in right now. So I was just explaining this to him. Right. And then also, man, I wanted to show you this. So Amazon has a cloud gaming, and it's getting a lot better. It's called Amazon Luna Plus, and it's part of Amazon Prime. I think I'm paying like $9 extra with my Prime, but all you need is like an Xbox controller or this controller, and you're playing games in the cloud, and just in awe of technology. But one thing that I want to say, I want to give a shout out to everybody that's listening, streaming, supporting. We're growing. A special shout out to Keegan, because now we have merch right here. We have the t-shirts. So ladies and gentlemen, I'll have the link of our store. And then I also wanted to show you one of the t-shirts we have. Again, 40-something gamers, retro, 40-something-year-old gamers, Gen X gamers, for the new gamers alike, we like. So one of the things that we're going to talk about one day is digital over cloud. And this is saying I'm old school, 40-something gamers, physical over digital. So the topic that we want to talk about today is we want to talk about the early 2000s and how 2D is still the thing and how 2D has been better than the original 3D artwork or the 3D gaming. I want to tell a story. So I was there in 1995 when Sharon was talking about the PlayStation. I didn't know what the PlayStation was when he first found. Matter of fact, how did you find out about the PlayStation before anybody was talking about the PlayStation?
Gaming magazines. I was always reading those electronic gaming monthly magazines, and I happened to be looking in one of them one day, and there was a PlayStation. I looked at the controller, and you know, at that point in time, the way it was set up was kind of, it was cool, but it was different because what threw everybody off was like this part right here. Oh yeah. You know, but I had to be looking in the gaming magazine, and one day I went and either it was a Walmart or Babbage's, and there it was. So I messed around with it and I played that bad boy, and I was like, hey, yo, Mark, you got to come check this out. So if I remember this, what's the mall out there in Shreveport? Shout out Shreveport, Louisiana. Shout out Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. That was North Shore. Okay. No, wait. Well, we went to Slidell.
No, okay, yeah. We went to Slidell. Yeah, that's Slidell. So
it shut down. So
funny story about this is I had a date. I had a date that day, and Sharon was like, hey, we got to go get the PlayStation out in Slidell. So Slidell is this way. My date's this way. Where did you live at? Waveland? She lived in was it Waveland?
No, she lived in the Bay.
She lived in the Bay while I lived there. Yeah. So I'm thinking like, yo, I'm going to make it on time. And people know Mark Knight, sometimes my time management skills ain't all that. Yeah. But so we go to Slidell, we get the PlayStation. I see the PlayStation, and still at the time, my mind is still Nintendo Genesis. So I'm like, man, I'm curious to see what this thing is about. So anyways, we head back to my date. Sharon's in the car. Needless to say, I'm late. I'm late as hell. You need to go. Yeah, Sharon's in the passenger seat of the car, and so I was like, hey, all right, you know, not going to throw a little goofy little smile because I'm late as hell. And she come out, and I'm like, whoa, okay, it's daytime. And she's like, you're late. And she's like, I'm not coming, but I want you to see how good I.
And she looked good.
Yeah, Sharon in the car just laughing, like, oh, man. But hey, we got the PlayStation.
We got that PlayStation.
And we at the house. So then when I see the PlayStation, so PlayStation is the one that transitioned to the 3D. That's when 3D was started popping after 32-bit.
Yeah.
And so back in the day, I remember he had Battle Arena Toshinden. Was that on the
Yeah.
demo disc?
Was a Battle Arena Toshinden, Ridge Racer, Tekken. It was another EA skating game, Wipeout. And then some of them were like just video demos of the games. But yeah, I still have that disc today, man.
So, and Sharon, how big was that TV, man? The
That
TV that you would, yeah, in your house. This dude has always have had big TVs and movie theater sound.
Yeah.
So
that was a 46-inch Sony.
Man, and
we were playing PlayStation on it.
So this was 95 and we were like 17.
Yeah.
So I remember specifically when he played Wipeout, I was like, whoa, like this is crazy. And then even playing Ridge Racer, like, whoa, this is new. And so
the only way you ever saw a video game on a big screen is if you were in an arcade, if they had it, you know.
Yeah.
And those are normally the Neo Geo games, which is why they look so impressive.
Oh yeah, the arcade boxes back in the day were just amazing. So I saw that and I was like, good God. So back in 1995, that's like you in a whole new world, because there were pseudo 3D games like your Hang On, your Afterburners, your Outruns, and I will say, do you remember that game Hard Driving?
Yeah.
So
Wasn't it was like a simulated kind of driving game? Like where the screen would crack or whatever, like if you I remember that.
So I want to say that was back in like 92, 93 is when that Hard Driving came out, and that was fascinating. However, what we're going to talk about is how some of those games, a lot of those games didn't age well, and that 2D games have still been the tried and true thing. So Hard Driving, basically, back in the day, it was like, oh, this is it, but it's polygon. It was polygon, and you do like the loop, like the Sonic loop with the car. And I remember there being a cow, and that if you look at gamers now, look at that game and be like, what are you talking about? It looks like Atari versus 16-bit, but that's where we were at. We were at pseudo 3D back at that time, and we were at like Hard Driving. Oh, and then that's the time when Virtual Driver came out, Daytona USA. So when Sharon had that, it was like, oh my God. And I remember the years that followed, Tomb Raider, you had Resident Evil, and like PlayStation. Like PlayStation had that on lock. That was the introduction to the 3D world. So again, and we talked when Gregory was on here, instead of going team PlayStation, I went team Sega Saturn. I want to say that Sega Saturn, well, in your opinion, you have both, man. Which one do you think did like 3D more justice?
I think that PlayStation was maybe slightly faster. I think that they really both looked the same, honestly. You know, it's just PlayStation had the better library, in my opinion. But I think they were both probably about the same. They were both fun to me. You know, I was never biased over Nintendo versus Sega. But I mean, back then, you know, all that stuff cost a lot of money, so you had to pick one. And I picked the PlayStation because it was a new boy on the block. So I was like, okay, let me try that out. But I think that they were basically, to me, they were about the same, with maybe a slight few games, but yeah.
So I remember like Sega had an issue with transparency. You remember like whatever was transparent on the PlayStation, it looked weird, like fog and stuff like that. It looked kind of patchy. And I just remember like Daytona USA and guys, it's guys and girls, the arcade still had everything on lock. Like for example, when I had Daytona USA on the Sega Saturn, it looked nowhere. What percentage would you say it was like arcade like?
Arcade was faster. I noticed like whenever you play the arcade, you could see like the clouds like scrolling like in the back of the windshield of the car. And like when they would crash in arcade, the car would kind of fly forward and like, you know, whereas the Sega would kind of just roll over and keep going. I'd say it was probably about 70% arcade.
Yeah, because the frame rate and it just looked polygon, to whereas the arcade it had the curves and the texture, and it was like very, very choppy. And then you also brought up a point with the racing games, you could kind of see through, like especially with Wipeout, you could see through the terrain. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, because it was like you would kind of see all that like back building, you know, like when you play Ridge Racer, you know, in arcade, like when you're driving toward the city, you could see the buildings kind of, you know, like you were actually driving towards it. Whereas on the PlayStation, it would suddenly just kind of pop up.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, okay, but I mean, still for that time, period, I mean, you weren't gonna get any closer. You
Yeah,
know, NBA Jam Tournament Edition on the PlayStation, man, I had people on the next street at my house playing that game because it was arcade perfect, with the
yeah,
exception of a slight load time. But with those polygonal games and all that, that information on this had to load, so it had to be fast, so it
yeah,
really couldn't keep up. And that's also, I want to say, one of the reasons why a cartridge may actually be better than a disc, and which is also now, which is why maybe the games download to the machines now, they take up so much space, so they'll play correctly versus playing directly from a disc.
yeah. And you brought up a good point too, because that was like before then. A lot of the stuff besides the Sega CD here in the States, it was all cartridge based, and that's one thing I do remember when you had your PlayStation was it be like, wow, this is loading. Okay, it's loading. It's loading. But we also want to speak to 2D had time to perfect. 2D had time to perfect.
Yeah.
And this 3D was something new, because I remember even like when you played Battle Arena Troshinden, I was like in awe. But then you would
Hmm.
see like some of the polygons when they move, it would like cut
Yeah.
into each
But it
other.
but it was so smooth, to look at
Yeah,
that. Like it moved so
yeah,
realistically. But let's not take away from Rayman, which was
yeah,
a 2D game. And Rayman, although it had a little bit of low, but Rayman was like had phenomenal graphics and awesome soundtrack.
yeah. And and then that was 2D. Was it 2.5D or it was straight
No,
2D?
it was 2D.
Yeah,
It was just really
yeah,
smooth. It looked
yeah.
it looked like a hand drawn cartoon, basically.
Because like you said, it had time to perfect. And then basically with 32-bit, it enhanced the 2D
Yeah.
graphics. A lot of people say that as far as the 3D, PlayStation had it on lock, to whereas the Sega Saturn 2.5D and the shooters that was their lane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I specifically remember Wipeout when you played that. I was like, dang, this bunny is jumping, and
Yeah.
it was like, wow, a different world. So now we're talking about now. How do you think those early 2D and 3D games have aged now that you look back?
Well, it depends on which ones you're playing. I think that, like, say, and I know it's probably not a very popular opinion, at the time, Super Mario 64 on Nintendo 64, it looked really good. But if you look at it now, like, say, if you compare it to Mario Sunshine, it's like,
Man,
yeah, Sunshine was phenomenal. And even like looking at Super Mario Galaxy, like
my goodness.
Mario 64 just didn't hold up very well. But I mean, it's still fun. Don't come for me.
Yeah.
Still a fun game. It's a product of its time. But the thing is, we had to do that to get here.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's the same thing like with the early PlayStation games. We had to make that leap from the Super Nintendo Sega to the PlayStation with all the polygon graphics and all the back building and everything, to now you're playing games that are faster than arcade. Actually, we have the arcade technology at home, so which is I think is a great thing. But I still like Castlevania. I remember playing a 3D version of that, and I'm a Castlevania fan, and I don't think it held up well. But Symphony of the Night, which is a 2D game, 2.5D sometimes, I think it held. I mean, the game came out in 1997. Wait, 97, 98, and we still play that game today. It's phenomenal.
yeah. I was gonna say that I'm sorry, I lost my thought. I was gonna say Super Mario 64. That
Uh-huh.
damn camera, bro.
Yeah,
That camera, because now you have the camera that you can control. And
right.
I just remember they had to learn how to do that. And then even with, I hated with Resident Evil, the orientation and how you would use the controller. So they were
Hmm.
still trying to figure that out, because now it's not just front and back.
Yeah.
You're every which direction. And I think in my mind, the games that I played back then, in my mind, I guess because it was all brand new. Like, say,
Hmm.
for example, you gave me the Sega Saturn and I got this a Sega PlayStation. No, I'm sorry, the Sony PlayStation Mini. So before
Hmm.
I anticipating getting the Saturn and the PlayStation Mini, in my mind, these games were phenomenal. But
Hmm.
now, since we've advanced, it's like, wow,
Right.
it's not as great as I remember it, because, like you said, we made these advances. Like you said, we went from 32-bit to 64-bit, which
Hmm.
which which in my mind perfected the polygon things. But then, as we stated, because of now it's not just front, back, left, and
Right.
right. The controllers also changed. I wanted to ask you that too, man. When you bought the PlayStation, was it hard to initially get used to the control pad?
No,
Okay,
not to me.
okay,
I mean, because if
yeah,
you look at it, it's still basically set up like a Super Nintendo control pad. It's just a little bit
yeah,
smaller. So, and you also had like the top buttons. So, I mean, if you were already playing like a Super Nintendo, it was an easy transition because also remember, Nintendo and Sega were merging, to make that Nintendo CD. So the controller is it's not far off from a Super Nintendo controller if you stop and think about it. It's just slightly smaller. But no, I didn't have any trouble transitioning from that to playing a PlayStation. I mean, nah,
yeah.
not at all.
And I just think like, and when we talk about it, man, these 2D games still hold true. Like, how many Street Fighters do we have? Oh, and then you remember when they tried to make the 2D games? There were 2D games that they made 3D that were like horrible. Castlevania, Mortal Kombat. It's just like you can't.
And they even I remember there was a Mortal Kombat 4 in arcade, which was a bit 3D, and it was okay. I know they brought it to the Dreamcast, but I never really bought into it. I still preferred like the original Mortal Kombat games over that. And I know that's actually come a long way too, and has done very well with the later Mortal Kombat games. But I don't know. I think it's more of a nostalgia point for us, because we were transitioning from the 2D to the 3D, and it was kind of cool to look at. But some of it didn't. I mean, in my opinion, it didn't hold up very well.
Yeah, I will say, what games do you think held up well during like that early 3D 32-bit?
I think Wave Race 64 held up well.
Okay.
And Star Fox for the Nintendo.
I forgot about that. I want to know. I want to see people's reactions first time seeing Star Fox.
Right.
That are now like later gamers. Because like you said, Star Fox was a game changer. And it was on the Super Nintendo, 16-bit.
Yeah. And I would honestly even say, even by today's standards, they had like that FX chip that they brought in.
Yes.
And so that was even like several years before PlayStation. I think that held up pretty well. But like Star Fox 64, I think does well. I don't think that the first Resident Evil for PlayStation held up well. However, they did remake it for the Nintendo GameCube, and it looked like an absolute masterpiece. And I think that still holds up today.
And even like the remake they did of Resident Evil 2. And you're right. And you know what's funny? And probably later gamers laugh at us for this. We actually would get scared on that PlayStation Resident Evil. Like, people would actually get scared, and then you look at the graphics now, like,
you got to stop and think. You're not actually watching a movie; you are the movie. So, like now, I'm the kind of person I don't like to be chased.
Yeah.
So in that video game, you're going around the corner, all of a sudden something jumps through the window, and you're being chased. Now your anticipation is building because like now you're holding a controller, you're controlling this Alice or Jill Valentine or whatever, and at some point something's going to jump out, and you're going to have to turn around and run. And keep in mind, this is still early PlayStation, so you may not totally have like the moves down pack, and then they would catch you and they bite the shit out of you. Your blood's flying everywhere. And it's like you're trying to get away. It's like, so it was they had a good scare factor. But I thought it was cool though.
And then I think as far as not aging well, what was that? It was like Dynamite Cop. It was kind of like Die Hard.
Yeah.
If you look at the garage scene where you're fighting in the cars and they're like tires look weird. I want to say Virtual Cop, when it came out, it was impressive.
Yeah.
Now it didn't age well, but Virtual Cop 2, they did, for that time period, they did the Sega Saturn did a huge improvement.
Right.
I want to say the Saturn's version of House of the Dead was, it was horrible, but the Dreamcast, and I want to say like the Dreamcast era, PlayStation 2 era, that's when the 3D got really, really cleaned up.
Yeah.
I will say honorable mention though that aged well was Gran Turismo I liked, and then Virtual Fighter was pretty good.
Yeah, Virtual Fighter, yeah. Because I remember playing the first Virtual Fighter, and then playing the second one, and then Virtual Fighter 3. Yeah, Virtual Fighter did very well. I mean, to me, it did held up just as well as Street Fighter, which we're still playing today. I think they still make Virtual Fighter games.
Yeah, because was it 2? I know that because the one that they had initially on the the Sega Saturn was like, but then 2 came out. It was like, wow, it was pristine on the Sega Saturn.
Even
Was it
even in
3? I
no,
can't
2.
remember. 2,
Even
okay.
in the arcade, if you looked at Virtual Fighter 1 next to Virtual Fighter 2, like Virtual Fighter 1 had that like the polygon look, and Virtual Fighter 2 looked more rounded, like a cartoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like once we got to number 2, I was like, okay, this looks really well, and that was that quick transition. That happened within like maybe, I don't know, 2 years. When does Virtual Fighter come out? Not what, 94, 95?
Yeah, I want to say, yeah, 94, 95.
And then Virtual Fighter 2 probably came out, I'm guessing, about 97.
Yeah, I think
maybe.
you're right, because 97 is when I bought the Sega Saturn, and that's when that's when it came with Virtual Fighter 2.
Yeah.
And I want to say, so when we're in that transition, 2D got perfected and enhanced, and then you had 2D. I'm thinking about Strider 2, and I just always felt like even with the fighting games, Darkstalkers, yeah,
Darkstalkers,
Darkstalkers, and even with the Street Fighter series, it just like it enhanced, and I think that's why even now pixelated games. And 2D is always tried and true. Like like we said, some of the games they tried to transition to 3D just didn't hold up.
Well, I remember looking at, like, saying Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter Alpha 3s and all that.
Yeah.
And then when they jumped to, let's say, Street Fighter 3, or they just called it 3 or whatever, it had more animation detail within the movement of the character, so it looked a lot more fluid. So I guess at that point in time, with all the 3D games, they had to figure out a way to compete with 3D without, it's like, well, we don't want this era to die. So it's like, okay, how can we do this? So, they put more animation in between it, and I think it still looks good today. I'll still play Street Fighter 3, and I mean, yeah, it's just great that they did that.
Yeah. Because even like when they did the 3D, you still had Killer Instinct. You still had these other games that are tried and true. And even now, we still, like the Ninja Gaiden, all these remakes are still, it's either 2.5D or it's not transitioning into 3D. And it's like vinyl records. You still have your 3D games that are like, I mean, we have good ones. Was that Red Redemption?
Yeah.
Open World 3D. And even now, these 3D games are like crazy, but I don't know how you feel. I still I'm more likely gonna play a 2D or 2.5D plug and play.
I'm not biased. I'll play both. Don't get me wrong. I spent a lot of hours playing GTA 5.
Yeah. That game is.
Which is, I wouldn't even call it 3D. I would just call it, I don't know, a masterpiece.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
To me,
that's like a movie.
Yeah. To me, 3D gaming would be more like mid to late 90s, early 2000s. I would look at those as 3D games. The ones that they're making now is just like you're playing through
worlds and
like real world, yeah. And it's like, but I still, don't get me wrong, I still play my 2D games also, because I'll still play Mario Wonder and Castlevania, and Contra, which I love those 2D side-scrolling games. But I will still also jump to like Mario Galaxy, which is a 3D.
Mario Galaxy. Mario Galaxy is. Yeah, I still play that too. And you bring up a good point too, because then they I will say like it's kind of like the earlier. Yeah, let me clarify that. Like the earlier games, 3D games, PlayStation games. Some of them I'll play, some of them I won't play. Some of them have like Gran Turismo. I'll play that all day. But then some of the other ones, like even there's like that Batman game. It's too dark and too pixelated. I'm in the Batcave. Like I really can't distinguish.
Wait, which Batman?
I can't remember. There's a Batman on the PlayStation that I'm in the Batcave, and it's like, because it's warpy and the weird 3D is like.
You talking about Arkham Asylum?
No. This was like early PlayStation.
You're talking about the Batman Forever arcade game, probably.
Yeah. I think it's that was
really pixelated.
But I will say, and then remember when they did Contra? They tried to do Contra. And then that
what? The funny thing about that is there was a Contra game that had come out on PlayStation, and it was even in 3D. So you would wear like the 3D glasses, and
wow.
Yeah, I rented it and I tried it. It was like, but it was like the glasses was like red and green or red and blue or whatever. And it's just like, yeah, it didn't go over so well. Not for me, but
But you bring up a good point. We had to go there to get there. Believe me, when you first saw it, I mean,
yeah, it was
you ever see
phenomenal.
those memes where they show the blocked face?
Yeah,
Back in the day, we're like, oh, this is realistic. And now you see I'm
yeah,
not gonna lie, man. The games now, like you can see like the skin texture, the
hair
hair
follicles.
moving and
Yeah,
everything. But back in the day, it was just like a block,
yeah.
a 3D block.
Well,
Looked like they had the Bobby Brown hair, Gumby.
yeah, but you look at like say a lot of the football games they have now. If you really like with the TV and technology we have right now, if you walk into someone's house and they're playing that game and you don't see a system, you won't know any different. That if you're watching a real game or a video game or like or any of those sports games for that matter, like the I don't know, 24, 25, like those games look so real. Like you have to double take and be like, is that, or in the racing games too, it's like, is that real? Or is that a
Yeah.
video game,
Oh yeah. And then you bring up, it's funny because I think the breakthrough where it was like, oh, snap, this is like when it like, and I mentioned this last episode, when the actual console game was better than the arcade game is the 128-bit with your PlayStation 2 and with your Dreamcast. Because like when I
Yeah.
saw Soul Calibur, I was like, and even with Crazy Taxi, like now you can see the textures and was that Shimu? Was it
Shimu, I remember that. But I can tell you when I knew we made it from arcade games coming to the home console, it was when you pop that bad boy in and it said insert coin. I was like, okay, yeah, this is like an exact arcade board. Yeah, it's like, yeah, so it was like, yeah, they trained that 1999 era when the Dreamcast had come out and we had Hydro Thunder.
Oh yeah. Hydro Thunder was,
What was the House of the Dead,
yes.
Mortal Kombat 4, Marvel vs. Capcom, Soul Calibur. I remember playing Soul Calibur at home and then going to the arcade and playing it, and it was several games that they had that. And, hey, do you remember this? Like when these games had first come out, like say Hydro Thunder and like a couple other games, they wouldn't run correctly. So you had to bring it back and you had to get the one that said hot new. Yeah, because they had a recall on those games. Because every time we would play Hydro Thunder, we would try to save the tracks that we had gotten in the boats and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
They had to recall those games. And they had to go back and get the one that said hot new. So if you had a game that said hot new, that's why my phone's being kind of breaky over here.
And then remember Sonic R? So Sonic R for the Sega Saturn was like, and then you have Sonic for the Dreamcast.
Adventure.
That was like, wow. And then even,
Man.
But I will say another honorable mention was Nice Into Dreams on the Sega Saturn. That was like, whoa, what is this? What is this?
Yeah, and I don't think we have enough of those games. They've only made that game twice. The second time was on the Nintendo Wii about 15 years back, which I have that one as well. But I think that if Sega's listening, we're due for another Knights game.
Yeah.
I think we're in the perfect time for it.
You imagine it now with man, that would be. And then even Panzer, when I first saw Panzer Dragoon, I was like, what is this? And again, like this was a whole new technology. It was certain things that were hit or miss. But imagine going from Mario or you going Atari 2D, 8-bit 2D, 16-bit 2D. Right. But then you get Star Fox. You're ending the 16-bit era with Star Fox. And then you're coming into the 3D. And it was just like, wow. But now, like you said, things are real. You can see the rain. You can see the mist. You like pimples and stuff like that.
You don't know what you're looking at. I mean, I remember when the Sega Genesis was coming out and I wanted to get one. And there was a guy he was a maintenance guy. And he was very hell-bent on Atari because that's where his nostalgia was. Yeah. And he was saying that he would play an Atari over a Sega Genesis. I was like, yeah, okay. But it's like, you go right ahead. But I mean, that's what he grew up with, coming out of the late 70s, jump into like say 1989, we had Michael Jackson Moonwalker and Golden Axe, and we were trying to get those arcade perfect games at home. And I think in a way they kind of were too. But I mean, I guess back then, if you had Donkey Kong and Pac-Man on the Coleco or whatever, there was some that were better than others, more superior. So I guess it depends on what you were playing. But like, yeah, I've never actually owned an Atari or a Coleco. I've played it, but I really started with Nintendo.
And then the cool thing is 2D is like vinyl. It'll never die. Like I'm amazed that kids, we got games that look realistic, but we still, that pixelated 2D, 2D look is still there because
Yeah.
as 3D and with everything was still getting in the mix and getting perfected, 2D has always been there and they just made it better. Like sometimes, like with the Shinobi game or some games, you'll be playing a 2D game and like the background, you're like, wow,
Yeah.
there's still more for the imagination. There's still more for the imagination, even though it's like 2D has been around so long, you can still like niche it and add extras and stuff and still perfect it.
Yeah.
Right now it's polished and perfected.
Yeah.
So
And at the same time, I know a lot of these games look very realistic, but I like to still know that I'm playing a game.
yeah.
Because sometimes it can be a little too real. Not saying
Yeah.
it's a bad thing, but I do typically tend to stray more toward the more cartoony games like
Yeah.
Mario, because sometimes I need those bright colors and quirky music, to kind of
Yeah.
end my day.
Yeah. And then it's like, sometimes it's like, Mark, are you watching a movie? No, I'm playing a game. But sometimes you just watch, like you
Yeah.
said, man, sometimes you just want to watch the movie, watch the game like it's a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. But another great episode of 40 something gamers. Ladies and gentlemen, let us know what you think or what you want us to talk about. And I want to do a call to action. Call to action for this sweet, I'm old school, physical over digital, or to win a free 40 something gamers game. Go to our 40 something gamers Facebook page and take a picture of your video game setup. And me and Sharon will pick and choose the one to be the winner. And the
Right.
winner will throw either or that you
Right.
like. And then also, hey, check us out on Facebook. Check out our YouTube channel, Marquivas Nice YouTube channel. Like, subscribe. Give us reviews on the streaming platform where you listen, like and subscribe. Right now, we want to represent the retro gamers, Gen X gamers, the new gamers, and we're looking to grow the podcast, looking to grow the YouTube channel, and then also the merch store. I'll put a link right here. Check out the merch store. Not only are we promoting 40-something gamers, we got like clever shirts that let people
Yes.
know that, hey, you're part of the gaming community and you're part of our tribe.
Right.
So Sharon, any parting words?
Yeah, don't forget to exercise. Eat right, play video games, check out the merch, and have fun.
Yep,
And
have fun.
don't forget to check me out, like Sharon's Arcade. I'm dropping video games. Yeah, I'll be dropping some more of those pretty soon. But
Yeah, and then also in the comments, let us know, like, what arcade game we got damn near every video game. Let us know what you want us to play on Sherrod Arcade, you know what I mean? And then also check out his artwork. And then I'm a musical artist. Check me out on all your streaming platforms under Furious, Furys, and then under my composer name, I'm making instrumentals, lo-fi music, Marquivas Nias. So ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to think about, or not think about, what you want us to talk about. This is what I'm thinking about right now. And then shout out to Keegan. Thank you for getting that sweet merch. Take a picture of yourself with that sweet merch, and we will be on Discord. We from the 1970s, so we got to figure it out.
Yeah. With my glasses.
But again, I just want to say there's like a lot of systems. Back in the day, you had to buy the console. You had to buy the cartridges. I'm still blown away. This little thing is holding like thousands of games and systems. This is where we are right now.
That's bigger than our Nintendo cartridge. Our Nintendo cartridge is bigger than that.
Yeah.
Look,
Neo Geo cartridges are way bigger than this.
Yeah. Look, they're going to figure that out, and I'm still trying to figure this out.
Yeah. Like, this is like years we had to go to arcades. You understand me?
Drive the Biloxi.
Man, that's crazy, man. But ladies and
I miss
gentlemen.
those days, though.
Yeah, man. We'll get into that too. We'll have a topic: online gaming versus actually being an arcade. That's going to be a topic that we discuss soon. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned in. I'm Marquivas Furious Nias. That's my boy right there, Sharon Harrington, signing off for 40 something gamers.